This podcast is brought to you by Paris Chevrolet. Thank you guys so much for sponsoring my podcast. Y'all do a lot of them with me, and I'm so grateful. If you guys have any car needs, go check out Paris Chevrolet. They have all kinds of cars there, and they will help you. They're great people. They're good, friendly people to work with. So go check them out. Thank you guys. Let's get this thing started. Welcome to another Paris, Texas, a podcast. This is a podcast where you get to listen to people's stories. People that have either influenced or lived in the city of Paris, Texas. I love hearing their stories, and I can't wait for you to hear the next guest. All right, guys, I'm, as always, super excited about this guest. I think this is probably the most unique person that I've had on the podcast, not in a bad way, just because of her backstory, and that really excites me. Katie Dixon, what's up?
Hello. I was kind of excited because no one knows my backstory, so I can stay, incognito in Paris, but now everyone's about to know.
Oh, yes. It's all going to be right here. That's awesome.
Yes.
So I always start this podcast out with the same question, and I think yours is going to be different than any other person that I've ever had. Where are you from?
Australia.
Australia.
The land down under.
Okay, crazy thing about Australia, it is like my bucket list. I've always wanted to go to Australia. Like when I first got married, we looked in trying to figure out how we could move there, what if there was jobs we could do there, like did we have to get visas, like what, we looked into it all.
Yeah.
And we just didn't do it. But it's someplace I really want to go.
I think you're the first person that hasn't said everything kills you, though.
Everything kills me?
Everything kills you over there. Like, everyone always says to me, they say, where are you from? And when I say Australia, they're like, oh, I've always wanted to go there, but everything kills you. Like the spiders, the snakes, the dingoes, and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, meh.
Nah. I mean, that's like backyard for you, right?
Yeah, I never got bitten by a spider until I moved to America. So everyone, we have the deadliest spiders in the world in Australia. And it never got me till I got to America.
Did you have to watch out for them?
No, they're just there. So you've got huntsmen's, and they can get to the size of a dinner plate. And I grew up rodeoing and had horses and things like that.
Yay.
So when we would, I think you call it blanket, when you put a blanket, we call it rug. So we'd rug our horses. It was just a known thing when you put their rugs on at night. You kind of shook them out a little bit to make sure there's no spiders in there.
Because you don't want to buy the horse either.
No, and if you went out in the morning and your horse had welts all over it, you knew there was a spider in the rug. But it was fine, They left you alone.
So what part of Australia are you from?
So I was born in Melbourne, which is the bottom right-hand corner.
Okay.
It's the easiest way to explain it. And then when I was 12 years old, we moved to Queensland, which is the top right-hand corner.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So lived in a place called Noosa, which is on the Sunshine Coast.
Awesome.
And yeah, it's a beach town.
Awesome.
So I don't like the beach a lot, really. But it was really cool to grow. It was a beautiful place.
Awesome.
Super blessed to have grown up there. And but I'm a winter baby, which is funny because everyone finds it strange because my birthday is in August.
Okay.
But
Mine
August is winter in Australia.
Did not know that.
Yes. So everyone's like, why do you love winter so much? Because I was born in winter.
And
so they are in winter right now in Australia.
Awesome.
And we're in summer. It's complete opposite.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Did not know that. I would have if I'd have left for Australia right now, I'd have packed for summer.
Summer. Yeah. Well, I mean, in Queensland, it's not very cold anyway. It's kind of like Texas. Winter, it doesn't really get that bad.
Melbourne's different though?
Melbourne's different. So the whole country is opposite. So the more north you go, the more humid it is.
Okay.
The more south, the more dry it is.
Okay.
Because we're on the bottom side of the equator. So
Yep.
it's totally flipped. So Melbourne does get pretty cold.
Okay.
Queensland is more like Texas, I'd say.
Okay.
So it's pretty neat. But when you think about it, Christmas is summer. So we don't have Santa coming in a sleigh on the snow. No, Santa's on a boat.
Yeah.
And he gets off on the beach.
Swim trunks,
Yes,
surfing.
Hawaiian shirt Santa.
Yes.
That is our Santa.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Love it.
So I had never seen snow or had a white Christmas till I moved to America.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So did you you stayed in Queensland until you got done with school?
Yes. So I left. I moved to America when I was 22.
Okay.
So I graduated when I was, I guess, so 18, 17, 18. Yeah.
From high school?
Yeah, 2004 I graduated.
So what was your thing in high school? Like, what's the thing you did the most?
Oh gosh. It's kind of funny because I wasn't in school a lot. So my final year of high school.
How'd you swing that?
I got really lucky. I was big into horses.
Okay.
Show jumping.
Oh.
So not the rodeos, which I do now or have done. I did show jumping in Travel Australia. Show jumping.
So show jumping, is that where they're like the three little poles and you jump? The horses jump over it.
You jump over it. Yeah. And so in grade 12, my final year of high school, my coach in Australia qualified for the Olympic Games.
Okay.
And took me with him.
Awesome.
So I got to go to the Olympic Games in 2004 in Greece, but it meant that I missed out on a bunch of schools. So I think I missed out on about 3 or 4 months of my final year of high school, which was, it was a cool experience. And the principal was like, go for it. Like, he was like, I would rather have on my resume that I got to go to the Olympics than finish school.
On time.
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah.
But I was really into drama, film.
Awesome.
I didn't know I wanted to be a journalist or be on the radio or do anything I do now back then, but I was just always very creative. So dance, drama, film and TV, things like that. So we got to pick our classes.
Awesome.
Our electives, I guess is what you call them. Yeah.
Like when you're in high school, you got to pick what?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, there's so many differences with schools too. I was talking about it the other day with someone. Like we don't have the cafeteria, I guess. We just have a tuck shop. You take money and we took our lunches to school every single day.
Wow.
And every classroom was an individual block with like an outside entrance. It wasn't like a big school with a hallway. Like we didn't have lockers. We took our books to school every day in our backpack. And
that's
so
crazy.
many differences. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when you were in school, did you what was your plan for life? Like what was your career direction?
Oh, I have no
Horses?
idea. Well, yes and no. Honestly, by the time, once the Olympic Games was said and done, I was burnt out and I quit.
Oh.
Yeah.
With rodeo, anything.
Quit everything, sold all the horses. I was, the day that we landed in Greece, I turned 17.
Okay.
So I was 16, 17 years old, living in Europe for 3 months, and I was just burnt out. I guess that's a lot. But I always wanted to be more of like a TV reporter, kind of like a news reporter, I guess. And I got into uni. We have university, not college. It's very different.
Awesome.
We don't have, fraternities or college football or anything like that. It's
just school.
It's just school. It's university. So I did get into university for journalism.
Awesome.
But I deferred for a year.
Where was that at though? Where's
on the Sunshine Coast
in
Australia?
Okay.
Yes. So the thing with Australia is when you turn 18, you're legal for everything.
Okay.
Drinking, partying, smoking, whatever you want to do, you are legal.
Okay.
So I know people party over here before 21, but we've been going a little longer. I retired from partying at 21. But they really encourage you to experience the world and travel the world in Australia. So a lot of kids will take the year off after school, after year 12, and travel the world, come back, and then it's kind of like head down, bum up. We're going to university.
Get it done.
Yeah. You go straight into the workforce kind of thing. So
awesome.
Yeah, I took a year off and ended up with a job as a receptionist at a TV station.
Awesome.
And I figured this is my way in.
Yep.
Because I always thought, well, you can get a degree or whatever, but just because you have a degree, it's such a hard market to get into, I guess. There's not a ton of reporters that make it big or get onto the TV or whatever. So
and they always want people with experience.
Right. So I was like, start with the receptionist and
work your way up.
Work my way up. And
so you started that before you went to university.
I never went to university.
Oh, you never went to university.
No, I ended up just staying at the TV station. Yeah. Wow. So I don't have a degree.
That's awesome because that's very similar to me. My studying is YouTube, experience, Google, pushing a button and saying, "Oh no, don't push that button! Don't push that button again!
How do I do this?
How do I undo it? Control Z, Command Z, don't do it! Don't do it!"
Yes.
That's my whole life. Yeah.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That's what I learned.
So what was the station you were at in Australia?
So it was called Channel 10.
Okay.
If you think about like Dallas, they have like okay, so think about like News 12, News
Yep.
10.
Mm-hmm.
We have free TV in Australia, pretty much everywhere. You've got your main three free channels, 7, 9, and 10.
Okay.
And they would play things like The Simpsons, Law and Order, Home and Away, Neighbours, things like that.
Reruns or
No,
the actual shows?
Actual shows.
Okay.
Yeah. Now we did have cable too, and I'm sure now maybe cable's more popular. I'm not sure, but I guess in Dallas you have more free TV or those
Probably.
free channels than out here. So that's what that was. But they're the main stations for all of Australia.
Awesome.
And worked for Channel 10, and we eventually got bought out by a Macquarie Media, and we ended up merging with the radio stations.
Okay.
So I got to work for a TV station and 2 radio stations. So
Awesome.
then I took my experience into radio, and that's when I kind of decided that I wanted to learn all 3 and be a triple threat, I
Awesome.
guess. So I was already writing for magazines.
Mm-hmm.
I just submitted a few stories about rodeos
Yeah.
and things like that.
Now, were
And-
you still rodeoing at all?
Yes. So
Okay.
about a year after high school, I had sold all my show
Mm-hmm.
jumping horses. I did a bit of dressage in the middle. I was like, let's try that. And kind of, got rid of that too. And then Mum and Dad got me into rodeos.
Okay.
And I thought it was the stupidest thing in the world. I was like, I'm not wearing jeans up under my armpits. Like, no. And everyone always thought it was funny because I would wear business suits and high heels to work during the week, and I'd put on a cowboy hat on the weekend.
That's
So it was
awesome.
like polar opposites. But yeah, I started rodeoing and barrel racing, roping. Team penning is really big.
Okay.
And then we have another event, camp drafting, which you don't have over here. But yeah, so I was doing that at the same time. And
So hence you wrote some stories about
I
that.
wrote some stories. And I think that's where my interest in journalism came from. When I got back from the Olympic Games, all the newspapers wanted to know about it, because I was at the Olympic Games as a groom. So my coach was competing and I was taking care of his horse. I got to fly on the plane with the horse,
that's
which was
awesome.
crazy. There's no seats on the plane. We sat on the floor. Yeah, so think of like a horse trailer with no wheels.
Yeah.
And they'd pick it up on a crane, slide it in the plane, slide it down the middle of the plane, and the horse was in there, and I was in the box with the horse. Yeah, so I flew from Germany to Greece with the horse, which was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
So, but I was the groom officially, and I still believe to this day I'm the youngest ever groom to go to an Olympic Games.
Yay.
Which is it was really cool. At the time, I didn't realize the significance of it,
Yeah.
So when I got back from the Olympic Games, the news outlets wanted to know my story, and I started telling them about the Olympic Games, and I got to meet the Queen of Spain and
Oh.
Princess Mary of Denmark, and like they were just sitting in the audience. It
Yeah.
was crazy, and I think that's where my interest in journalism came from. So then I sent a story to a magazine, and for probably about a year, I just wrote stories. Didn't get paid, just
Yeah.
wrote stories.
Try to get them published.
Yeah, and so I was doing that on the side while I was working at the TV station, and they kind of, at the TV station, taught me how to run a camera. They got me into the sound booth, voicing some commercials that I still have to this day, and they're horrible. I listen to them now, I'm like, oh, terrible. But it was really cool. So I started to learn all aspects of it, which was really cool. And that's when I decided that I want to be a triple threat. I want to learn everything.
All in.
Yeah, all in. All or
That's
nothing.
awesome.
Yeah.
So, then did you start doing newspaper after that?
No, so I have never done newspaper
You've never
until like 4 weeks ago. 6 weeks ago, whenever we brought out the newspaper here in Paris.
Wow.
Yeah, I'd always done magazines,
Magazines,
TV, and radio.
Wow.
Yeah,
So how long did you stay at Channel 10?
I was there for 4 years.
Okay.
And stayed until I moved to America.
Awesome.
So that was really cool.
So how did that happen?
Oh gosh. Well, I always said that when it came to rodeo journalism, that was my interest. I loved rodeoing. We started traveling the country, rodeoing. My parents, my sisters actually. My sister came fourth in the world in 2000 and 14, I want to say, when she was 16 years old. So it's in the family, you know.
Yeah.
But my side was the journalism side. So I had done TV, I had done the radio. We have the NFR kind of thing in Australia. It's not as big as over here, but I did the TV there and the in-arena reporting and got to interview the guys on the big screen. And I was like, well, I've made it. What's next? Like, there's only so far you can go, you know? And I was like, America. America. And so I told my mom, I was like, that's the next place I can go. That's where the PRCA is and the PBR. And I need to go to America. But it was just kind of like a, you know, dream, I guess. Like, it was never going to happen. And I remember one morning my mom come running into my bedroom. I was asleep. It was like 9 a.m. I was a teenager still sleeping in. And she goes, "You're moving to America in 3 weeks."
In 3 weeks.
I was like, well, what are you talking about? Yeah. And I packed up my life in 3 weeks in 2 suitcases and moved to America.
So where did you go in America?
So I moved to Colorado first.
Awesome.
So my sister at the same time had qualified to come to the World Finals, where she ended up coming fourth. But we couldn't bring our horses over here. So you would rent someone's horse over here. Okay. So my mum was making the calls and trying to find a good 1D horse that my sister could ride. And that's when she called Marlene McRae. Marlene's a world champion barrel racer, gold medalist as well. Went to the Olympic Games when they had rodeo in the Olympic Games in the 80s. That's funny. Every Olympic host country is allowed to pick 2 sports when they host the Olympic Games. And Canada picked rodeo that year. Oh, wow. Lane Frost competed with them and Tuff Heedman. And so that was kind of funny. But Marlene was very big in the industry, and Mum happened to call Marlene. And Marlene said, you know, from Colorado to Georgia was a really long way to haul a horse. Yep. You know, she could help her find one closer. And Mum said, well, I got you on the phone. My daughter wants to come over. And Marlene goes, tell her to pack her bags. I need her here in 3 weeks. And that's how it happened.
Awesome. Yeah. So did you work for them? Like on the because I'm somewhat familiar with them. They have a big ranch in Colorado.
Yes.
So did you work on the ranch? Is that kind of what you did?
So I had been looking at jobs with like the PBR and stuff, but to apply for a job when you're not over here is super hard. And even then, immigration and getting visas and stuff is even harder. Yeah. So I figured if I can just get over here, we can take care of all that stuff later. So Marlene is what just got me over here. So they had a ranch in Texas and one in Colorado. And so I flew into Texas, was the first place I landed, and flew into San Antonio, actually. So got to experience that on my very first day in America. I got fried pickles and fried alligator. Hello, America. But yeah, so then went up to Colorado. They spend the summers in Colorado, the winters in Texas. Okay. Worked up there with them for a while and trained horses and just helped around the ranch and things like that. And, till eventually they helped me get work with magazines. Got offered a job. The PRCA offered me a job. And it was like a dream come true. Like I remember calling my mom and the PRCA called me and they're like, can you come down here tomorrow? And they were in Colorado Springs. That's where their headquarters is. So I go down there and they take me around the office and introduce me to everyone, and I'm still like, what am I doing here kind of thing. Yeah. And end up in the big office with the president, and he offered me a job on the spot flying out the next day with their TV crew. And I was like, this is insane. Like this, how does this happen? I remember I had a prepaid phone and I'd run out of credit. So I'm driving to the nearest gas station. I'm trying to buy credit. I need to call my mom. Yeah. And unfortunately, it didn't work out because their lawyers couldn't get me the visa I needed. Oh, crazy. Yeah. But now I look back and I'm like, it was a blessing in disguise because I've done more not working for them than I would have working for them. You know, I felt like if I had have stayed there, I would have been like a goldfish in an ocean. Yeah. And not working with them.
You've been stuck in one area doing the same thing for a long period of time.
Right. Yeah. And not having a degree really hindered me with the visa. Okay. And so the president at the time, he called me a week or two later and he was like, friend to friend, you need to go get a degree. He was like, just apply to a school, you can get a visa, you need a degree if you want to get anywhere. And probably about, I've been in America about 9.5 years now, and probably about 4 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, he found me on LinkedIn and messaged me and was like, you did it without it. You know what I mean? Because he told me, he's like, you need to go get a degree. You will not get anywhere in this country without it. So that was kind of cool. But I got that opportunity and it didn't pan out. And so basically I had to do anything I could to try to make money. Yeah. I wasn't allowed to work though. That was the problem. My visa hindered me from working. So I was trying to just take side jobs here and there. And I was a nanny. I got to be a live-in nanny, and it was somewhere to live, you know, and take care of kids at the same time. And I worked for someone flipping houses in Denver. Oh, cool. Yeah, I've taken so many odd jobs just to, you know, survive, I guess. And then after that, I kind of got a phone call about a podcast-type TV show. So it was all online. It wasn't like on a network or anything, but someone from Oklahoma called me and they were like, why don't you come down and host this rodeo type TV show? And so I came down and hosted it, and that's kind of what started my travels and moved me out of Colorado.
Oh, wow.
But I love Colorado.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Colorado's beautiful.
Like, you can never get used to the beauty there.
Oh, yeah.
And I love it because I like taking photos and videos, and you can't take a bad photo.
No. And you can't get lost.
You can't.
Because I was told the mountains are always to the west.
Exactly.
And that was my go-to every time if I got lost. But Colorado is where I first saw snow. I'd never seen snow until I was 22 years old.
That makes sense because Australia doesn't have any peaks.
Not like we do over here, no. And I was driving in downtown Denver, and I'm seeing like little flakes come down. And I was like, nah.
I'm gonna get my eyes checked.
Seriously, I pulled over and I'm out there and I'm looking up and people are looking at me and I'm sticking my tongue out and I'm on the phone to my mom. I'm like, it's snowing!
It's snowing!
Oh my gosh! Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, and then of course you get snowed in, and
then it's not as fun.
But they drive crazy on the snow.
Yeah.
Like, driving on the snow to them is like driving in the rain to us. Like, no big deal.
It's just snow,
I'm like a grandma. Like, 10 and 2, hands on the wheel, like, hazard lights if there's a little bit of ice. Yep. But, yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, it's like second nature to them.
Oh, yeah.
And they're a little more equipped. They can put sand out a lot quicker, and they have their roads ready for snow. So it's a lot different, but they don't back down when it snows.
No.
Kimmy's college, she went to in Colorado Springs. She went to UCCS, and they do not close for snow.
No.
Nah.
Nope.
We're still having class.
Open. Yeah. Find a way to get there.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
Put your snowshoes on.
Yep. I remember my boss that I was working for at the time, he actually took me out and was like, I'm going to teach you how to drive in the snow. And we went out to some street and he yanked on that handbrake so that I would, like slide and spin. And he was like telling me, I was like, I'm never going to remember this. Like, I'm not going to remember to turn into where I'm spinning. Like, who does that? That's crazy.
Yeah. Sounds like something dirt track racers do.
Like, I'm just going to drive slow.
Yeah.
And if you want to overtake me, overtake me.
Yeah. Or stay behind me and stay safe.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to go slow.
That makes sense. Okay, so you started traveling for different kind of podcasts, radios, stuff.
Yeah.
And where all did that take you?
So I came down to Oklahoma and did that one show, and he was like, let's keep it going. Let's go out every weekend. So packed up my life, and I drove a little 2-door Cavalier that I still have. My sister has it in Georgia right now. I think I'm going to let that car die with me because it's so sentimental, you know. Yeah. I could pack my whole life up into a 2-door Cavalier. I have my dog, Noah. He's traveled everywhere with me. He's a mess. But we came down to Oklahoma and did some shows down here, and that kind of fizzled out. And so I needed a place to stay because I still legally couldn't make money with the visa that I was on. And I was still waiting to figure out a visa at that point and what I could do. So I came down to Royce City.
Okay, I know
it's funny that I ended up in Paris because I've been so close to here. I had friends in Royce City, Jim and Z Sykes, the most amazing people in the whole wide world.
Awesome.
Little old couple in their 70s and 80s, and they had a little ranch down in Royce City. And it was crazy because 20 years ago now, my mum and dad came over to America, just traveling tourists, and they were like, we want to experience team penning and rodeoing in America. So same deal with my sister. They called around to find if they could rent a horse from anyone, and they had rented it from Jim and Z.
Awesome.
So that's the connection
There you
there.
go.
And so then 10 years later, when I was like homeless and needed a place to stay, I called them. I was up in near Ada, Oklahoma, and I called them and I was like, I have nowhere to go. Can I come and live with you guys? I'll clean stalls and I'll ride your horses. I'll do whatever I can. And they were like, come and live with us.
Yeah.
And I lived in a little studio apartment above the barn, and didn't have a stove or anything. I microwaved my meals, but they were a huge blessing. Like,
Awesome.
I would have had nowhere to go. I probably would have gone home. But I swore, like, I told my parents, I said, I'm not coming home.
Yeah.
Unless immigration deports me. I'm not coming home. I don't care how bad it gets. I'm not coming home. So I lived with them for a little while. And then Kelly Kaminsky, who is another world champion barrel racer, I had met her, and throughout this whole process of being in America, I was going to the NFR every year.
Yeah.
And I was doing radio shows. We did shows on the stage, like live talk shows, things like that. So I was really big in the rodeo world.
Super active in that community.
Just outside of like the NFR and stuff, I was like, had nowhere to go. Just most rodeo people, they live on the road. But I just hadn't found anything solid yet.
Yeah.
And so Kelly was like, well, come down with us. You can train horses, and we got a house down here you can live in. And so went down to, it was near Katy, Texas. So down in Houston.
Yeah.
Went down there for a little while. And through that whole process, picked up a job doing a TV show for the PBR. So did a couple of TV shows for the PBR, hosting a show. And through that, I get a phone call from Chris Gunn.
Yep. Know him.
Good old Paris, Texas.
There you go. Good old Paris, Texas.
You get to blame Chris Gunn for me being in Paris.
Oh, okay.
So he called and was like, I heard you host TV shows. And he was managing a band, 121 North, at that stage. And this was back when, remember that bar next to Joe's? What was that called?
LimeWire?
I can't even remember what it's called. But when that big,
Road...
right next to Joe's, where Pines is now. The Crosswire.
I knew there was a wire in there.
This is when Crosswire was still open.
Okay.
But he brought me up here, and we were filming this kind of docu-series following 121.
Okay.
They did the national anthem when the PBR came to town.
Awesome.
We did radio stops, went to East Texas broadcasting. KFYN had just started. And we were filming, so I had met everyone at Coin and everything before I ever moved here. Funny story with Coin, we were filming there, and we were outside the front, and I was doing the whole intro, like, hey, the boys are getting ready to go in and do an interview, let's go inside and check it out, like, the whole stage thing.
Yeah.
And they've got two doors at East Texas Broadcasting. I don't know if you've been there, but at the, that middle weird section, a door, and then a middle and a door.
And
So they had someone on the inside. They were like, we'll open this door for you, and then that way you only have to push one open.
Yeah.
So I did my big intro. I'm like, let's go inside and check it out. So I walk in, and they open the first door, and I go to open the second door, just motion, and it was locked. And I just went, bang. I hit the door. I think that's probably how I broke my nose, and it's all on camera. So I'm sure that Eric and the people at Coin probably remember that. That was like
Someone's got that in a black box file somewhere.
And I hope it stays there. We about died laughing. I was like, good old bloopers on TV.
Yeah, right?
But yeah, that's how that all happened, and we filmed it, and I left and went back down to Katy, Texas. And then I found myself needing a place to live again. And Chris was really big into the rodeos as well. He managed a couple of the PBR guys and stuff like that. And so we had talked about working together on stuff. And so Chris was like, come and stay with me. So I lived with Chris and Courtney for like 2 months. And in that 2 months, Chris was I asked Chris if he knew any jobs or anything like that. And that's kind of how I met everyone at KFYN and ended up with the job at the River.
Awesome.
So... yeah, it's kind of crazy how that all came around. And during that time, I had gotten my green card too.
Awesome.
So it took me 5 years to get my green card.
Wow.
Yeah, so I know there's so much talk about immigration, and being someone that's been through it, it's tough.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, so it took me 5 years to get my green card. I ended up winning it in 2010 and /11. I won Media Person of the Year for Australia.
Oh, yay.
So I won that, and I was like, finally, like, I got something solid, and I gave that to my lawyers, because there's only 5 ways to get a green card, and I didn't qualify for any of them. There was one, and it was the Extraordinary Abilities green card.
Okay.
But that you needed to be a gold medal Olympian or something.
Yeah.
But when I won Media Person of the Year, I was like, I've got something, and I ended up winning it the following year. So I won 2 back-to-back titles for Media Person of the Year, and that's how I got my green card.
Awesome.
Crazy. So when I happened, the timing all worked out that I literally got my green card when I came and slept on the couch at Chris Kim's house. I've slept in my car, I've slept on the couch, and KFYN, The River, Trey, who he was on the morning show at the time, he was getting married. And so he was like, well, why don't you just fill in? Come and do the morning show. Travis was the other guy he did the morning show with. And he was like, I'm getting married. I'm going to take a month off. Just do the morning show with him. And I was like, okay. So I'd never done radio besides like voicing commercials and stuff.
Yeah.
But I was just like, I can do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to turn down this opportunity. I'm going to find out a way. I was so scared. Oh my gosh, I was so scared to go on air. And that month came to an end, and I was like, I need a job, and I don't know what to do. And I remember saying to them, like, I'll sell advertising. Just, I'll pay my way if I can stay on air kind of thing. But it so turned out that there was a job for me, and I was able to get the job,
So
I guess, and stay on air.
So you stayed on the radio.
Stayed on the radio, and
Awesome.
That's how Katie B, now Katie D, kind of happened with 104.3 The River.
So I'd never asked, what's your maiden name?
Bartlett.
Bartlett.
Yes.
Okay. Awesome.
Katie Bartlett. So it was Morning Madness with Super Dave and Katie.
Okay.
And that lasted, for about 4 years, and that was a lot of fun. And then I moved into the afternoon show and the news, and kind of where I am now.
Awesome.
So,
And how long have you been there?
6 years.
6 years.
Yeah, so I started there when I moved to Paris, pretty much. So it was 6 years in June, I think. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Been a long time.
So, and I saw recently on Facebook that you were awarded like official citizenship, right?
Yes, I got my citizenship.
And
that took 10 years.
Yeah. And I believe I saw a picture of your husband in American
underwear.
In a parking lot?
I was like, we're going to get arrested for you abusing the American flag. Funny story with that. So, you're eligible for citizenship after you've had your green card for 5 years.
Okay.
You used to have to renounce your citizenship in your original
home world.
Yeah. And I was like, I'll never do that. Never, never, never. I was like, if all goes to hell in America, I'm out.
I'm out. I'm going home.
I'm done. No, but now they changed it so you can get dual citizenship.
Okay.
My sister lives over here now.
Okay.
She lives in Georgia. She's married to an American over there. And my mom lives over here now too. My parents separated and she married an American. So it's funny because half my family's here, and then my dad, my other sister, and my brother's back home.
Oh.
But I mean, if I'm going to be honest, I originally applied for citizenship to help get my mom here.
Okay.
So that I could help take care of her. The divorce was pretty rough on her, and I wanted her to be here. Before she met her now husband. But that's, I started the process, and it was supposed to be pretty simple. And a year later, I was still waiting. I was like, this is ridiculous. And then I got the letter that I had an interview, and I was like, oh my gosh. So I studied because you've got to answer questions.
Yeah.
So I got these flashcards, 100 flashcards, and it has random questions.
And there are probably questions that I couldn't answer.
Probably. I should have brought them and we could have tested you.
That would have been so much fun.
Oh my gosh. I was so nervous though. I would go through these flashcards every single night. And at the office, I'd pick up, 5 flashcards.
Yeah.
And then I'd get back to work and then I'd look for 5 flashcards. And so I went in to do the test, and it's a person. So they ask you the questions. She was like, when do we celebrate Independence Day? I was like, really? That's all you asked me?
All the studying, that's...
I knew when the Constitution was, brought about. Like, come on. Like, it was crazy. Like,
so it was easier. A lot easier.
She asked me the easiest questions.
Oh.
Like, I can tell you, like, I couldn't now because it's not fresh in my memory. But, like, who the 4th president was and what president did this and what year, did they declare independence, 1776. And I was, like, ready. I had all these answers. And she was like, yeah, who's president if the president can't run? Like, are you kidding me? So you have to get 6 out of 10 questions correct.
Okay.
So, like, I really don't even think she asked me 6 questions, but... there was one about women's rights. I can't even think of her name right now. That's terrible, right? But anyway, it was questions, like the easiest questions. Like, tell me a state that borders Canada. I'm like, okay, so I passed with flying colors. And they scheduled the time I had to go down and, take the oath and raise my hand and do all that stuff. And I missed it. I missed my own citizenship ceremony.
Is that mandatory? Do you have to be there for that?
If you miss it twice, you're done. Yes. I was like, you have to go through the whole process again. I couldn't believe it.
Questions and everything?
Everything. Yes, everything. And so James, my boss, James White, comes into me one day. He's like, wasn't your citizenship test yesterday or the ceremony? I'm like, what are you talking about? No, it's next month. And he was like, no, you told me it was this month. And sure enough, I log in and there's this big flashing sign saying you missed your ceremony. I'm like, oh. And so then I had to write a letter on why I missed it. like you're in trouble. Like literally write. It wasn't an email. I had to post it.
Yeah.
Put a stamp on it and tell them like my excuse for missing my own ceremony. Yeah. I didn't miss the second one.
Did you have a good excuse or I forgot. I'm sorry.
I was like, I was sick that day.
I was on my way and I fought a bear.
Yeah, I mean, there was a kangaroo going across the road. A dingo stole my baby. That's a good one. That happened. I really don't know if that happened or not. It was in the news. Did you ever hear that over here?
And that didn't.
No, a dingo stole a woman's baby. Her baby went missing on the coast in Australia, and her excuse was a dingo stole
her baby.
Her baby. I still don't know if they proved it right or wrong. Yeah, I still don't know that. Crazy. I think that was like in the 80s. A dingo stole the baby. But yeah,
so you made the second one.
I made the ceremony, yes, and I became a citizen, and I found out 2 days after my ceremony they had a baseball player have their ceremony. I was like, well, you could have scheduled me the same day as him. That would have been cool. But no, I know one. But it was kind of crazy though, because there was 107 of us at the ceremony taking
the same thing
and everything, and they went through the countries and they had to stand up just to kind of show everyone. There was countries I hadn't even heard of.
Oh,
there's one other Aussie. I stood up and I turned around. I was like, yeah. Mate, yes. But yeah, there was 107 people, and there was people from every country, like in the world, pretty much. Wow. It was crazy.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
So, 4 weeks ago, you started doing newspaper.
Yeah.
What's that like? Is that different from
it's a lot
magazine? Because you're doing like more than just writing it. Like you're like designing it. Like
we do everything.
Are you like chief designer? Like I don't know what the title. Like
so I'm managing editor.
Managing editor.
Yeah. So I do all the news on the radio stations.
Okay.
So we have 95.7 FM in Barnum.
Okay.
1420 AM in Barnum. We have 98.9 Trumpet Radio, and then 104.3 The River. So I do all the news across all 4 of those stations.
Okay.
And then when I step out of the studio, we go down. We have myparistexas.com.
Correct.
Daily breaking. You've got to keep that up to date every single day.
Yep.
And then the newspaper is the myparistexas.com bi-weekly.
Okay.
We started off bi-weekly for now. And
it's an all-color
20-page.
It's like a magazine, but it's a newspaper. Yeah. It's really cool. It's kind of like edgy in between.
Australia into it. So it's funny because my coworker, She takes care of the layout, and her name's Erin Dixon. She's Australian too.
Nuh-uh.
Yes. We've got the biggest Australian news team in
America. In
America.
Paris, Texas.
Yeah, so 2 Australians take care of all the news for Paris, guys. Go figure. So it's her and I that do it, and it's newspapers in Australia. So the weird thing about America is newspapers are really tall and skinny.
Yep.
Australian newspapers are shorter and fatter.
Okay.
If you'd say so, and just different.
Are they more like the dollar saver kind of thing?
So a bit taller. So these are about 16 inches.
Okay.
By probably I think 11 or 12.
Okay.
So if you pick up a My Paris, Texas newspaper, that's what Australian newspapers are like.
Okay.
So to me, it's easy to hold it too.
Okay.
I always thought it was weird newspapers were so tall in America because you got to kind of hold it.
Yeah,
It's really tall.
Huge.
Yeah, tall. So it's a bit different. Full color. The layout is a bit different too. What we say is
it really feels like a
different.
magazine, but it's a newspaper.
Yeah.
But it feels like a magazine.
We wanted to go with both.
Yeah.
Like kind of a combination of the two.
Even the layout, like how the prints are on there and how the text is put on there.
You probably find we even write weird too. Like I remember, and it was Erin, and I laughed at Erin. I've been here 10 years. So Erin's been here a couple of years, but her dad's American.
Okay.
So she's been back and forth all of her life. But I know how to speak American, I guess. If I'm talking about we call on a car, you've got the hood and the trunk. The trunk. We have the bonnet and the boot.
Okay.
Which makes sense. The bonnet on the head, the boot on the feet, or whatever.
Okay.
But if I'm talking about it, I know to say the hood. The hood. So not to confuse people.
Right.
Every now and then it'll slip in, and there's still things every day that we're like, nah, you don't say it like that.
Even after being here, was it 11 years, 12 years?
10 years.
10 years.
Yeah, so remember recently there was a truck carrying a portable home or whatever, and it went under that bridge in front of Campbell's Soup and took the whole top
off. Yeah.
So we got to that first, which was cool. And Erin took photos. I was tied up. I'm like, run down there, get the photo. So she posts the breaking news, and she says something in there about how the truck tried to pull up but couldn't pull up in time, and people started commenting like, what are you talking about, pull up? What do you mean pull up? And I'm like, how do you not know what that means? But even after 10 years, I didn't realize that wasn't like a phrase that you said over here. Pulling up, he tried to pull the truck up, he tried to stop.
Oh,
yeah.
like a horse.
Like he tried to pull up into
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. So there's all kinds of different words. I've butchered so many names.
Oh.
I apologize.
Don't worry, I do that. And full American.
Some of them, yeah. So, well, on the news once, I was talking about the court and reading a story or something, and I was all serious because it's news,
Yeah.
When we did the morning show, we could have more fun,
and
joke around and get away with saying more. In the news, it's so serious, and your voice changes, and how you read sentence changes, and so I'm all serious talking about this thing, and I was like, municipality, talking about the court.
Okay, yeah.
Municipality. I didn't know. And James comes in, he's like, it's municipality.
Oh.
I still don't even know what it is. Municipality.
Municipality. I can,
see? There you go. Have no idea. But yeah, I was like, municipality. He's like, Katie. I was like, I don't know. And so I'm constantly going out. I'll like start reading something and I'll stop and I'll run out of the studio. I'm like, how do you say this one? Like,
yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
And it's crazy. So how different people's brains work differently. So for me, like my brain would have just fixed it after you said it.
Right.
And I wouldn't have bothered me. Same with like newspapers. When I read it, even if it might be misspelled, like my brain just
you scroll over.
I scroll it. Yeah. It fixes it and keeps going. Mm-hmm. But to some people, like I have a good friend who like it will irritate the tar out of him if it's off or said just a little bit right. But then for me, because I'm a visual guy, like if something's off on a video, it irritates the tar out of me.
Oh yeah, you'll see it.
Yeah, I'll see it. I'll be like, that
even
one.
after you've exported it, you're like, ugh.
I'm my own worst critic when it comes to my stuff.
Yeah.
But when it's like something like that, something that someone else does, I'm just.
But I think when you look at something for like so long and so many times, even with the newspaper, it's a bi-weekly, and there has been spelling mistakes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no. But human error happens.
Yeah.
And when you've stared at that for so long, your eyes just automatically skim over.
Fixes it.
And then it comes out in print, and the first thing you notice, you're like, how did I miss that? Yeah.
Happens for me all the time. I mean, because I do some design work with like Photoshop and stuff. And if someone ever wants like text on there, like I have to have 10 people look at it because after staring at it, moving different pieces and parts of it for so long, like I'll miss text or a color being the wrong color or something like that. Yeah, it's...
Well, punctuation is opposite too in Australia.
Really?
Yeah, so a lot of things are opposite, and we spell words differently as well. And so when the first story I ever wrote in America was for it was called Rodeo News.
Okay.
And it was a cover story. I was like, straight out the bat, got the cover story. This is huge. I was writing it on Wade Sundell. He's a bronc rider. And I had this cool story on how he used to put a barrel on a trampoline and sit on the barrel and jump around, and that's how he would practice. And get balance for broncs and things like that. And I send it off. I was so proud of it. And the editor comes back. She's like, your punctuation sucks. I was so offended. I was like, what are you talking about?
Spot on.
So mad. I was so mad. So it's opposite here.
Okay.
So we do like the period or the comma outside of the quotation mark. You do it inside the quotation mark.
Okay.
Yeah. So I wrote this whole story with like the period outside the quotation mark. She was like, gosh, you really suck. I'm like, no, I don't. Like, it's good. I know it's good. No. So I get confused. And for like the first 5 or 6 years of being in America, I wrote for Australian magazines as well as American.
Oh, so
it was confusing. I had to remember to switch them when I was writing for different
That's
magazines.
got to be very difficult.
Yeah. But yeah, there's all kinds of words. And Erin and I do it all the time. And she'll laugh at me and I'll laugh at her because I'll say something and or type something out. She was like, yeah, we got to change that word. That's not the right word.
Do you still rodeo?
No. When I go home, I'll ride and whatnot. But it's just too hard. Like my whole family did it back home. Mm-hmm. My mom and my dad, my sister. So my other brother and my sister back home in Australia don't.
Okay.
My little sister Chelsea, who's in America, does. And my mom and dad. So when I moved to Paris is kind of when it stopped, just because I didn't have a horse or know anyone that had a horse. So it's kind of, but I still am involved because I get to still report on it and cover it and things like that.
Awesome.
So I miss it, but it's kind of like riding a bicycle, right? Like, just get back on the horse.
Get back on the horse,
Might be sore the next day. But yeah, so when I go home though, I'll get on the horses and have some fun. But yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's been a ride.
So, 2 questions.
Yeah.
What was the first time you came to Paris? What was your first impression of Paris, Texas?
I thought it was huge.
You thought it was huge?
I did. I got lost trying to find the hotel. I was like, this is a really big town. This is cool. So when you drive in from like, Cooper, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're coming up the road. Mm-hmm. So you get on the loop and you're heading towards Walmart, and then there's that split. You know the bridge that goes with the trail?
I call it the Paris mix match.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So that's where I got lost the first time because it goes down Clarksville or it keeps going up the loop. So I thought I don't know what I was doing, but anyway, so I go down Clarksville, had to turn around and then go back up the loop, and I was looking for the hotel next to Alex's Tacos.
Okay, yeah.
That's the hotel I was looking for. I got so lost. I was like, there's 4 lanes. This is a huge town. Like, this town is so big. It's small-ish.
That's fun.
But yeah, it was the PBR rodeo was the first. That's why I was here. I was here for 2 days and I left.
Oh, wow.
Went to Crosswire. That was a great impression of Paris, right?
Yep. Spot on.
Spot on. So, yeah.
Okay, second question, more recent. What's your favorite place in Paris? It can be anything. Restaurant, it could be just a hangout spot. It can be anything. It doesn't have to be food. It doesn't have to be...
So, I haven't been there for a long time, but I used to get really homesick because I wasn't seeing water.
Okay.
I'm not the type of person that goes and sunbakes or lays on the beach. Sand irritates me. It gets in bad, everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere. Wife hates sand.
You'll get home and you'll take your bikinis off and there's sand coming out. It's like, how did it get there? But, So I've never been a person that loves sunbaking, but I loved the water. And I had a townhouse. So where I lived in Australia, you had the beach, and then it ran off into a river. And you had houseboats on that river and riverfront restaurants. We had floating restaurants, all kinds of stuff.
Oh, that's fun.
And Australia, where I'm from, super outdoorsy.
Okay.
So a lot of the houses, it's very bright and open. I've always got lights on in my house, and Cody's always telling me, turn the lights off. I like it bright. I need light. You know what I mean?
I'm the opposite. I'm a cave dweller. I like
no.
dim.
Give me light, because it's the beach. So a lot of the houses have like those big bifold doors that opens walls up onto the beach.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't say this to boast where I live, because I certainly didn't live in a multi-million-dollar home, but Tom Cruise has a house there.
Right.
So these are houses that are just the most incredible things you've ever seen in your life. We actually had 10 acres about 5 minutes outside, just about 5 minutes from the beach.
Okay.
And it was a country home, so it's not like a Tom Cruise home or anything. But this town is beautiful, and just everyone's used to living outdoors, being on the river. You know, my sister will send videos of my nieces, and they're on the river every day, and it's, you know, she's the same. We're so blessed to come from a place like that.
So you get homesick.
All the time, and I need water. And when I moved to Colorado, like Colorado Springs and Denver, I was like, is there a pond? Is there a dam? Is there, like, and you call it different things over here, but
reservoir.
Anything.
There's like one reservoir, but it's like up in the mountains.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to get to. Yeah.
And I used to take my laptop and just want to find water and let me work on water. So I haven't been out there for a long time. But whenever I used to get homesick or just needed to think, I would go out to Pat May's.
Awesome.
There's the deck out there, or you can drive a little bit further around just to where, and I used to just park my car and I just sat there.
And just look at it.
And just be on the water. I would call my mom or talk to my mom. And so, like I said, I haven't been out there for a long time because I think I'm not as homesick. I'm married.
Adapting.
I've got a family now, and I know people. But for the first 2 years in Paris, it was tough. I didn't have any friends, which was crazy because people were like, you're on the radio, everyone knows you. And I'm like, yeah, that's great, but no one's asking me to come to their barbecue on the weekend.
Right?
Like I see on Facebook, everyone's going out to the lake, and I'm like, I wish someone would invite me out to the lake. But that was my spot, is the lake. I think I liked that.
That's awesome. Okay, one more question. Sorry.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
So your husband.
Yeah.
He's a clown, right?
Yes.
Not a literal clown, like red nose clown, but like
it's his job.
Obviously he posts a lot on social media, and he sings, and
he has fun.
He has a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So what's life like with him?
We're constantly giving each other a hard time. We're constantly having fun. You know, he has a very serious side because he's a police officer.
Yeah.
And I think any police officer and their families will agree that I think that work is so stressful and mentally and emotionally. I mean, the things that they see and I can't speak for all police officers, but Cody doesn't open up a lot about what he sees. I don't think he wants to put that on me. And you can tell as a wife when something's happened. Yeah. And being in the news now, I know a lot more than maybe a normal wife, because I get a report. I say that like it's an honor. It's not an honor to report on some of these things, but I report on a lot of it. You know, so I know what's going on. So he's a Fannin County, he's with Fannin County, he's a sergeant over there. So not as in the know of what's going on in there, but I think because it is so stressful, he's so opposite and goes over the top and jokes and has fun.
He's got to counter it.
He has to counter it.
Yeah,
and a lot of them talk about that. You know, we hang out with all of them all the time. And I call it my pig parties. We have pig parties.
That's funny.
Has now evolved to EMS and fire. And we actually just had my birthday a couple of weeks ago, and it's like a tradition. We get the blow up jumping castle slip and slides.
Yeah.
Don't do that in your 30s. Don't. But one year, Cody dislocated his knee at my birthday party. And so this year I actually had a fireman and an EMS at my birthday. I was like, we are covered. We got a bunch of cops. And the craziest part was when he dislocated his knee, one of the cops was like, should we Google whatever? And Cody's going, don't let him touch me. But yeah, so we were covered this year. We had the paramedic, the fireman, and the cops.
Awesome.
But all of them, even the paramedics, say the same things. They have a lot of fun. There's even maybe a dark humor sometimes.
Yeah.
Because of what they deal with all the time. And so we joke around a lot. We're always having fun, always singing. And that's my personality, too.
Because he sings, too, right?
Apparently.
Yeah. Or something.
I don't know. Go to my Facebook page. He's always sending videos of himself singing or whatever. But no, we like to have fun. And people always ask how we met. And he'll tell them that I'm a mail order bride. And I'll tell them I needed a green card. So, and the funny thing is, when I got citizenship, people were like, well, are you nervous, Cody? She doesn't need you anymore. I was like, one foot wrong, honey. I do not need you. They cannot deport me now.
That's funny.
But yeah, no, he's lots of fun. His family's like that too. And
Awesome.
I'm surrounded by his family. Anyone that ever says they couldn't, live near their family, well, mum and dad are across the road.
Yeah.
So Cody's parents live across the road from us. His auntie lives next door. His grandma lives next door to her. His uncle's across the road, and his cousins. Like, it's like, we call it
compound.
It is.
That's crazy.
Like, basically, if anything happens, he knows he's getting the house, because I'm not living surrounded by no, I tell him I'd stay though, just to annoy them all.
Oh, that's funny.
But no, we do.
Awesome.
He's a good guy. We like to joke and have fun.
What a great environment.
Yeah. And the funniest part is Chris Gunn, who we talked about earlier, brought me here. When Cody and I first started dating, he texted me, he said, it'll never last. He DJ'd my wedding.
Oh,
Yeah, I made sure.
You pushed it in his face.
Front and center.
Yeah.
Front and center, buddy. But
That's funny.
But no, I love Paris. Like, I really do. I think people, I talk about it all the time on my Facebook page and even like in my editorials and stuff online. This town is like, and you're probably the same, like there's like this shift going on.
Yes.
And it's so positive. I love this town because it's far enough away from the big smoke, but it's close enough too.
Yeah.
But it's for me, I still get very homesick. You know, I'm going home for Christmas. And I said to Cody just last night, I was like, I'm so excited. He was like, why? Is there a reason? And I was like, your mom lives across the road. Could you imagine not seeing her for 3 years?
Yeah.
I think sometimes you just got to go home.
Yeah.
It just refuels you, you know what I mean? But this town is very cool like that because everyone is so friendly. Colorado, as much as I loved it, never felt like home.
Agreed.
When I got to Texas, I was like I never rented a place, bought furniture or anything until I got to Paris.
Wow.
Yeah. So
That's
even when I
awesome.
was in Houston and everywhere else, it didn't feel like home, and I was like a gypsy. I needed to be able to leave, I guess, after like 4 years of doing that. And then I got to Paris, Texas, and I was like, all right.
This is it.
I can settle. And I rented a house and
Aw.
brought a couch and a bed. And
That's amazing.
Yeah, so it's a neat town. I think regardless of what, the bad stuff or, people think's going on.
But that's going to be any town.
It is.
Any small town America,
Yeah.
you're going to be dealing with that.
And if you've traveled, I think people need to travel. You know what?
I
That's
agree.
One thing about America that baffles me, I've been to 13 countries. I'd been to 11 of those countries by the time I was 19 years old. Travel.
So I have
Experience.
this theory, because I didn't truly, and this sounds bad, but let me explain myself. And I've said this in other podcasts. I didn't truly fall in love with Paris until I left Paris.
Exactly.
But because, well, growing up as a kid and emotions and just the, high school and all the drama that comes with high school. Like, I had this vision of what Paris was, but it was a high school kid's vision of what Paris was. So it was negative. To me, it was negative. But again, it was what my experience through high school and through all the emotions that come with a high school kid. And I left a week after I graduated.
Good.
And I traveled. I've gone all over the country. I've been out of the country. And I think what happens is when you stay in one location for a long period of time. Even through high school, out of high school, you adapt to it. So everything around you becomes very just normal.
Right.
I mean, there's nothing unique about normal. And it's not until you go out and see the outside world that it makes you realize the beauty that sits around you.
Yeah, no, I agree.
You know, even Colorado, we talked about Colorado Springs. People who grew up in Colorado Springs, the mountain's not magical to them.
No, yeah.
It's not magical to them at all.
You gotta leave to
they've been there all their lives. They're just mountains. They've always been there.
Yeah.
But when you drive into Colorado Springs and you look up at Pikes Peak, you're like, wow.
Yeah.
I feel like Paris has that same effect where when you're here for a long period of time and you never leave, you just get adapted to it, and it's just normal.
Right.
But there is some beauty to Paris, Texas, and there's a lot, like you said, there's a lot of positive movement, and I'm like beside myself excited about all the good things that are coming, and we just have to continue to be positive about it.
Yeah.
It's so easy for someone to be negative and bash anything.
Right.
And negativity is louder than positivity, always. So you could have one negative person and 10 positive people, and that one negative person is going to be louder than those 10 people. That's just human nature.
People are going to remember, a bad meal that they ate over the good one. Yeah.
Right. But if we can decide to be positive about our community and push that positivity outward, I think we can really make something special here, that when people show up, it's that same effect with when you first time show up to Colorado Springs, and it's magical.
Right.
Because I think that's here.
Yeah.
We just have to make people feel, not make people, but we just have to present ourselves so that it feels that way when people show up.
Oh, yeah.
At least in my opinion.
And I would highly encourage everyone to travel.
Yes.
Like, there is so much outside of Paris, Texas. I hate to tell you this, people, but there is a big world out there.
Yeah.
And like you said, when you come back, and it's funny, I never used to, when I first moved here and I never knew anybody, I was scared to go up to Joe's.
Really?
The bar.
Yeah.
Because I felt like everyone in there were the quarterbacks and cheerleaders that grew up here and have never left. I'm sorry, I love you all now.
You thought they were all stereotypes.
Right. Well, it was just like you could tell that, like, it was so cliquey. And I've heard this from other people that weren't born and raised here. It was very cliquey. But once you make a friend, and even there's some girls that I met them through CrossFit, and I told them after I met them, I was like, wow, I thought you guys were all like, you grew up here, you married the quarterback, like, you were snobby.
Yeah.
You've got to step out and make those friends, but you can do it so much easier in this town than you can in Colorado.
True.
There was times I went to a bar up there, and I remember walking up to someone, and I literally said, hey, I'm new to town. Like, is this the place to go? And they turned their backs on me. Yeah. I'm like, they took everything I had to be that, try to make a friend,
Yeah.
But Paris is, like you said, you got to get out, you've got to experience it, but appreciate what's here too.
Correct.
Because there is a lot of good things here, and it's changed a lot. Even from like that time when I was scared to go to Joe's, now it's like you walk in and they're the friendliest people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't judge a book by its cover.
Exactly.
Is what I learned. And that was one of the big things behind My Paris, Texas. And I don't want to push, what we're doing, but we want to highlight the positive. Yeah. There is enough negative. You know what I mean? And I think if, like you said, if everyone changes their vocabulary and how they talk about things. Yes. Instead of telling someone out of town, there was this big drug bust, blah, blah, blah. Well, no, hey, there's this big festival going on. Right now. Hatch Chilies were going on. You know what I mean?
Today's Hatch Chilies.
Yeah. So, I think from an outsider's point of view, and like you said, what we have here is special. So if you grew up here and you haven't left and you don't see what we see, then leave and come back.
Go experience something and then come back. And you'll see it.
I love it. It's a very special town. It is. Very special.
Thank you so much for being on my podcast.
No, of course. It's fun.
This was amazing. This is a really good one. Not that they're not all good, but I really enjoyed this one.
Yeah, no, it's you could talk for hours, I think. Yeah. And it's the same thing with on the radio. I could talk to people for hours and hours. Yeah. It's fascinating. and so many cool people. That's the cool thing about your podcast is you learn things about people.
Yeah.
And now I can't keep it a secret. I've never been arrested, okay, people?
So I think I'm going to make it a goal to find one of these hidden videos of you either running into the door or there was one other one that you said, your first time on radio or something, and you said it was terrible.
I got that. I had to play a sexy housewife. And I was like, how do you play sexy? Like, they literally...
On the radio.
Literally, like, I remember it, and I was like, hello. It's like, now I'm like, that is not sexy at all. No. Like, it makes me cringe.
That's funny.
But it's really cool because my boss from the radio station in Australia has been to my studio in Paris, Texas.
Oh, yay.
Yes. And none of them ever thought I'd be on the radio either one day. And yeah, John Cranley was his name, and he was my boss when I was at the radio station in Australia. So yeah, he was in Texas and was like, I'm coming by to see you. So it's crazy how it comes full circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So it's very cool.
Again, thank you so much for being on the podcast. This is a lot of fun.
No, lots of fun.
Awesome. All right, guys, as always, we put out a new podcast every Monday, so stay tuned for next week's podcast. If you haven't yet, go join my Facebook group where I announce the next podcaster beforehand, and you can get any kind of details you need there. And if you have any questions, you can ask me there as well. I want to give one more big shout out to Paris Chevrolet. Thank you guys so much for sponsoring my podcast and just being so supportive of me. That's so awesome. If you guys have any needs for cars, go check them out. They're great staff, great people. And again, we'll see you next week.